Hello and welcome. This is episode 2 of the Northwood podcast, brought to you courtesy of allindianapodcastnetwork.com, a website that features podcasts from the greatest state in the United States, the state of Indiana, where I was born and where I still reside. I'd like to encourage you to check out the site to see what else they have to offer. Again, that's allindianapodcastnetwork.com. But for now, first, thank you for coming back for our second try, episode 2 of the Northwood podcast. For those of you just joining us, welcome. My name is Heath Jones, and I'm the pastor of Northwood Christian Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. And if you're at all familiar with the terrain, you will know that we are on the corner of 46th and Central Avenue. Our byline is that we are in the neighborhood for the neighborhood, and we mean it. And if you'd like to learn more about us or how you can help by volunteering at our food pantry or connect to some other ministry, you can go to our website, which is www.indncc.org. That's www.indncc.org. And you can learn more about Northwood. But first, it's time for advertisements. Now, I don't know what you are about to hear, as the ads are added by the All Indiana Podcast Network people after I've sent this recording off, but I'll wager that it's a safe bet that you are about to hear about goods and services you can buy. So hooray for that, I guess. All this to say, be back in a minute. And we're back. I didn't hear what you just did, but I bet it was an ad. So let us proceed. Now, as I said last week, we are still trying to figure out the scope of this podcast. I've been encouraged by several friends to swing for the fences and talk about things controversial or fringe, and as you come to know me, you'll discover that I'm usually captivated by topics controversial or fringe. And we'll get there, I swear. It's just in my nature. So for now, I'll just say, all in good time, there are conversations in the works. But in the meantime, I'll be trying to build on my limited experience with this by sharing with you some of the thoughts that I share with my own church on Sundays. And we'll start there and build on and move on to other things. I am about to read an astonishing story from the Bible. Some will find it astonishing for how fantastical it sounds. Others may wish to tune it out entirely because they are in no mood to endure a crusty old story from some ancient religious text, and I get it. But I encourage you, maybe give it a try. I believe that these old stories have been kept around for thousands of years for a reason, and that there are nuggets of wisdom, sometimes buried deep in them, sometimes right there on the surface. And so here it is. Receive it as profound or as a folk tale told by someone so long ago, if that's the best that you can do. The story is found in Genesis chapter 28, verses 10 through 22. But first, I should give you a little bit of context. The main character, Jacob, is on the run for fear of his brother Esau, who is out for blood. Jacob has cheated his brother out of his rightful inheritance and place in his community. So Esau has sworn vengeance, and by vengeance he means, I'm going to kill you, brother of mine. And so Jacob is in the process of running away to his relatives in a place called Haran, which is where we find him here, out in the wilderness, where nothing much ever happens, or so he thought. The story goes, Now Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night, because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven, and there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your descendants. Also, your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And in you and in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Then Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up as a pillar, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. But the name of that city had been Luz previously. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set as a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. There you have it, the story in all of its oldness. The challenge for us, I think, is to enter into the world of the story as best as we are able. Aside from those long winded speeches that you just heard, and if some of the words fell past your consciousness and were lost upon you, I don't blame you at all or fault you for it. But I challenge you, for what you did here, try to imagine what it would be like to be a character in the story that you just heard. If only in the opening lines, where you have a man lying in the wilderness and then is visited by an amazing, astonishing, unbelievable, I might add, sight, a stairway to the heavens. Now, Jacob was surprised, and I'd be surprised too if I were visited by God like that. I never have been, don't expect to be in the future. And I'm sure that what happened was the last thing on Jacob's mind as he was on the run from his brother Esau. As I had mentioned just earlier, this young man who was by no means a hapless victim. If you know the surrounding stories, you'll know that he well deserved his brother's ire, as he had tricked Esau out of what was his right according to the customs of the day, the family farm, his inheritance, and his father's blessing. Jacob was a bit of a snake. He preyed on his brother's weakness, his father's blindness, and both of their credulity in tricking them to obtain the birthright and the blessing. Now he is fleeing for his life, and he's out alone in the wilderness. Alone, or so he thought. This is not the place where you'd expect to be visited by the divine, or anybody really. It's surely not the place that you'd expect any kind of intimacy with another, let alone God. All Jacob had was a stone by which to rest his head. First, about this stone, we often imagine Jacob using the stone for a pillow, which of course would not be very comfortable. More likely, we are meant to imagine it as a large stone positioned behind one's head so as to provide protection in case someone decided to come up and whack you in the head with a club and steal from you, or worse. All this to say, here is no extraordinary stone. It's a stone placed at a solitary, ordinary location. It's just a stone, just a rock, just a stone. And beside it, just a man in the wilderness on the run with his rock. This is not the sort of place one is trained to expect an intense encounter with the divine, a moment of profound spiritual transformation. Yet it was in the setting that Jacob received this remarkable dream. He saw a ladder. We do better to think of it as a stairway. And this stairway went up to the heavens, wherever that is. This was not unlike the ziggurats or religious towers that dotted the landscape in those days. These were religious centers made by the Assyrians and the Babylonians and others, these tall buildings with staircases that ran up to the top, and they dotted the landscape. And the first hearers of this story would be well aware of these structures, very much a part of the place and the geography. And the idea is that the king or the high official or the priest or someone of status would be allowed to ascend to the heavens, leaving the lowly, the servant class, the peasants down below. The expanse between the heavens, the divine, and the common person seemed to be insurmountable, or at least that was the messaging. That was what was communicated by these structures. So far as the people could see, there was a wide expanse that separated them from the divine, except for those very special persons who tended to wield the power, who would go up and down the stairs, up to the heavens and back down to tell the people how they should act. So that's the idea. That's the backdrop, the cultural backdrop. But now, Jacob, in this humble place, the gap between the heavens and the earth collapses, and Jacob is no high priest or no noble or no king. Plain ordinary guy finds himself unexpectedly in the presence of God. Then God speaks and says, amongst other things, "Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go." Jacob discovered that he was not alone. Not there. And in fact, he never was. Then he wakes up from the dream and he turns to that plain, ordinary stone by which he had laid his head. You know, that object that moments before had seemed an ordinary rock. And he declared that that rock would mark a holy place, a special place, a unique place in all of its plain and ordinary appearance. So he pours oil over the stone, which would stain it a darker color to set it apart so that others may notice it. And as he did this, he said, "If God will be with me and keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God." This is an oath that marks a new chapter of intimacy and trust with the God that has found him in the wilderness, the God that was always there with him. And so you could hear what Jacob has just said as something like a vow in keeping with a wedding vow. These are deep and meaningful words. And it's something to become aware of how an ordinary geographic location can be transformed. The place where Jacob chose to spend the night has now been discovered to be a portal to the heavens. The gap between the heavens and earth collapses, closes in on itself. This revelation that the heavens have broken through into the seeming mundane, well, it changes Jacob's perspective. The plain, ordinary stone now becomes a sacred pillar, and Jacob calls the place Bethel, or Bethel, which means house of God. And this place would continue to serve as an important religious center and is alluded to in this context as a religious center and many other stories in the Bible. So, okay, now I'm really lapsing into full-on churchy talk. So where am I going with this and why is this relevant to you, listener? Well, during this pandemic, I'd wager that not a few of us have wondered where the holy places have gone. And if you're not a religious person, where have those places gone that held you in love and in community as we have found ourselves so isolated, all of us, or most of us? Conscientious churchgoers have been shut out of their church sanctuaries, those places that we've long been trained to think of as holy. And they may not be as obvious as Jacob's ladder, but we hope that they too will help close the gap between the heavens and the earth. But now we sit in our living rooms or in our bedrooms on Sunday mornings, sometimes in sweatshirts, sometimes in our pajamas, clothes you would never wear out of the house to, say, church, or perhaps not even to the store. A few of us are still eating our breakfasts by the time the live stream starts. We spend the next hour then in front of a screen. Surely this is no holy place. Bethel, house of God? Not hardly. And for those of you who aren't churchgoers, you can think about your own sacred places, the places you seek connectedness to those that you love, and those places where that love is reflected by the people you value and the places that you cherish. What is truly indescribable. I may call it God, perhaps you think of it differently. But where is that during a pandemic? Where is love? Where is the answer to our loneliness? Now, for the churchy types, I put myself in that category. I'm a pastor, obviously, I have to fit there. The pandemic has amplified these questions. Where is God? Where can we find God? Where does God find us? And behind these questions lies the quest for right and proper worship and our seeking of the proper place. Some call it a sanctuary. And also the proper time for an encounter with God. Here's the challenging thing, though, about Jacob's story. It teaches us that maybe all you need is a rock. Just a rock. Now, when Jacob woke up, he exclaimed, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." And this is not the last time that this revelation would fall upon some unassuming person. For example, Moses would have a similar encounter near a burning bush in the wilderness while he was alone. And it's my hope that you will discover this now, during a pandemic, that God is with you even in the space that you now occupy, even that space where you are sitting or standing in this moment is holy. Perhaps you're listening to this on a walk or in your car, in your house, or in some other plain and quote unquote ordinary place. How if the place that you are now standing or sitting is also holy? How if God is with you even now? Today's story is about finding the eyes to see this truth, the reality that is just under the surface. You are standing on holy ground, and God is ever with you. Love wraps you up in a hug. How poignant is this message during these times of pandemic when we have been for so long removed from our sanctuaries, our holy places, community disrupted and replaced with isolation? Jacob discovered that God was with him all the while. His dream revealed what was already true. He just didn't know it yet. He was all the while in God's house. Did he need to locate the proper temple or shrine before encountering God? No. As I said, apparently all he needed was a rock. Now, true, things are different today. Perhaps I should have mentioned that the first persons to put this story to parchment were the Israelites in exile. Their country had been conquered by military force and their rule overthrown, and they had been removed from their homes and scattered all throughout the empire. The temple, which they thought of quite literally as God's house, had been destroyed. Can you imagine how the message, God is with you even now? Can you imagine how that message would have impacted those who heard it? Those days in exile, throughout it all, removed from their homes, scattered all across the land. As I was saying, things are different for us today. We're not exiled or displaced in the ways the Israelites were, yet feelings of isolation and abandonment may still be felt by God's people in every age. This is certainly true during a pandemic. Jacob's discovery is still ours to make. God is with us always. God is even with us during Zoom calls in the face of slow, inconsistent internet connections and choppy video streams. Love finds a way into our lives in spite of it all. As I said last week, sometimes the problem lies in the frailty of our eyes. If we had the eyes to see what is just behind the curtain or the illusion that God's Spirit is not with us. The stairway to heaven is ever before us. The house of God is in every place. While our sacred spaces or sanctuaries help us experience God, God is not contained in them. They are but helpers along the way. The artwork, the aesthetics, the music that we sing when we gather together, they are but helpers along the way. We must not mistake them for the thing themselves. They are signs pointing towards something transcendent, but they are not the transcendent. And they don't even need to be expensive, large, or extravagant. It turned out, as I keep harping about, all Jacob needed was a rock, if that, just a humble rock. But these things must never become our idols, as they often do. Where is God during a pandemic? Where are the sacred spaces, or those spaces, those places where we experience something we cannot describe? Does our exile from God's house, however you frame it, signify an expulsion from God's presence? The very presence of love? No, God is still here. God is with us, with you, even though before you did not know it. God is with you. And it is my hope that we all, each one of us in our own way and in our time, find the eyes to see the love that surrounds us and never lets us go. And on that uplifting note, I have to say that our time together is almost done. But before I sign off, I need you to know that the good people at All Indiana Podcast Network have told me that we need to make space for still one more ad. Talk about a non sequitur. And again, I have no idea what ad you are about to hear, but I am sure that it is about some product or service that you can buy with your money that you may or may not want or care about. I guess so. We'll just move on to the ad. Here it goes. Ads. And we're back. Wow, those were some really good ads that I didn't hear along with you. It really makes you think, I guess. So anyway, that's it for this week's podcast. Check us out on our website, www.indyncc.org. That's INDYNCC.org. And please subscribe to this podcast so you'll know when we drop another one. Until next time, I'm Heath Jones, and this has been the Northwood Podcast.